Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RPO Leadership Forum webinar series from the Recruitment Process Outsourcing Association. This is Amis Aburama, host of the program. In today's webinar, we are talking candidate persona. In particular, how to use this effective tool in identifying the best talent for your business. As a disclaimer, I am not an expert on this candidate persona subject, but my guest speaker is. I'm delighted to welcome Zach Coffey, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Hueman, to the program. First time on the RPO Leadership Forum. Welcome, Zach. And Hueman is a leading national people solutions organization and a gold member of the RPOA. With that, I'll keep it short and sweet. I do want to welcome Zach to introduce himself and take us through the presentation.
So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for being here, taking your lunch break to listen to me. I really appreciate it. I'll give a little introduction about myself. Let me say my fancy title is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, but you can see on the photos on the right there. So when I graduated college, the best waste of a degree that I could come up with was be a professional musician. And so I still do that from time to time. Play a few gigs here and there. I'm a family first guy, dad first. I feel like I'm an Uber driver sometimes, but about a decade ago, I started my professional career after music as a recruiter. And I started here with Hueman. I spent a lot of time recruiting. And then, 6 or 7 years ago, I moved over to the solution side of things. And so the way my job transformed really was being able now, instead of recruiting candidates, I'm out talking with talent acquisition leaders around the US and really consulting in 5 key areas. So we're looking at the people, the process, the technology, recruitment, marketing, and reporting, and elevating all of those areas to ultimately elevate the talent acquisition function. But today we're talking about the candidate persona and really where it factors in. And 2 of those key areas are with the technology that we bring and our partners deploy, as well as the recruitment marketing and how you're able to use a candidate persona to truly hone in and spend those dollars a little more wisely. So at Hueman, we make hires for our partners, but most importantly, it's about making the right hires. And so a little bit of information about us. We'll make about 50,000 hires on behalf of our partners this year. It's across lots of different industries. But we're about 500 employees, all based in the US, Jacksonville, Albuquerque, and then like me, we have about 50% of a remote workforce. So I'm actually in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So go Rangers, go Cowboys. It's an exciting week over here. But what makes us the experts, right? What gives me the right to stand up here and talk about candidate personas? We hire a lot of people, but ultimately for us, understanding a candidate persona is so important because it affects our culture. And we are a culture first, a culture forward organization. And you see on the left side of the screen some of the awards and accolades that we have won based on our culture. But really, for us, we wanted to understand how we measure culture. And for us, measuring culture meant that we needed to see how engaged our workforce was. So you can see that first award, Gallup, most engaged workforce in the world. We respond every even year. And it's really exciting. And it means that we have a group of engaged folks and a great culture. But what exactly is culture? And so culture, to me, I have a sociological background, but culture is a group of people that share a common set of core values. And through candidate persona exercises, through really understanding who we're looking for beyond experience and education, we are able to consistently bring in folks into our organization that match our core values. They are the right candidate persona that we're looking for. And because of that, we continue to have a strong culture. So really excited to talk to you today, not as much about our culture, but how you can go through this candidate persona exercise as well. So we'll unpack that. Lamisa, I think you have a poll question here. If you want to pop that first one up. So really the question here, do you even use candidate personas? Yes, no, or are you unsure? You may be unsure what they even are. That makes my job a little bit easier if that's the case, but we definitely want to dive in. So I see some yeses, a few no's, a couple unsures. So I really appreciate the feedback here. Awesome. So we'll keep going. So what is a candidate persona? Candidate persona is really a profile for specific positions. So it's not all the positions, you're really digging into each one based on the skills and personality attributes of those who succeed in that specific role. So you think specifically about personality traits, career goals, motivations, those soft skills, what makes somebody a great employee in that role beyond their resume, beyond the experience and the education. And so we talked about that. Who is it? So that's what we're developing, this candidate persona, looking for those skills and traits that make a perfect hire. But why? Why do we do this? So when you go back to your COO, he's going to say, why are we spending all of this time working on candidate personas? Well, you can say, hey, listen, it helps us identify better talent. So not only are we bringing people in that are going to stick around, that are going to advance within our organization, but it also is going to help us save some dollars, right? So when our recruitment marketing team is going out and they're advertising for these roles, instead of taking that shotgun approach of let's blast it out as much as we can, get as many candidates as we possibly can, you're able to really refine the search that you're going through and saying, let's fish in these pools and these ponds and not this pond over here, because we know that we just don't get a ton of candidates. And the only way that we know that is by going through this candidate persona process. So, thinking about really what this process is and how we get started. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's not every single position. Not every single position that you may hire one time a year needs a candidate persona. Of course, you want to understand what about that role is going to make somebody successful and all of those things. But where we really think about taking the time to develop a candidate persona and go through this large process is thinking through those top 3 to 5 positions. So if you're a manufacturing organization and you're looking at those folks that maybe are on the line level, those producers, well, let's look at that job. If you're an education, let's look at teachers, right? Let's look, if you're a hospital, let's look at those nurses that are on the front lines, and a nurse that is working on the south side of Chicago versus Pasadena, California, it's going to be very different motivations of why they would want to work in that area. So take those top 3 to 5 positions and let's dig into those, right? So the second piece is we really want to conduct some external research. So while we will be going in and understanding this position and what makes people tick, we also want to go out and we want to understand our market, but also take a look at competitors. Go to their Glassdoor. What are employees that work at our competitors saying about these specific roles that they're either praising, they're expressing some frustrations about. And as you go into the market and listen to these candidates, see these other folks, you're going to learn a lot instead of just staying insulated and looking specifically at your roles. So thinking of who should really be a part of this. So we want to pick 5 to 10 colleagues to attend really a workshop meeting. These 5 to 10 colleagues are the ones that are leading the folks in these roles, right? So maybe a manager of a group of line level employees, and they can come in and you see on the right side this candidate persona analysis worksheet, which some of these worksheets, if you're looking for some of these things and some ideas to get started, we'd be happy to share them with you. But as these next level leaders go through this and think about, hey, what are these folks' motivations? What are their personality traits that actually make them successful at this role? Are we talking to people that have no shame about sharing their opinion and they're happy to be vocal about things, and that makes them successful in a specific role? We want to understand that. We want to know that. So having those leaders fill out this worksheet and then coming to the workshop meeting to have a larger discussion about it. And then lastly, summing up and really compiling that final candidate persona information is extremely important. I'll show you on the next slide what that looks like. But when you think about going through this process, it's quite a few people, 5 to 10 people for each role, and thinking about all of these positions. You really want to have somebody leading this process that understands recruitment marketing as well as your organization, so that they can take this information, boil it down, and say, hey, this is information that we're going to use when we're out doing marketing in the world, when we're thinking about technology platforms that we may need to bring to enhance a process. You want to have somebody leading this process that truly understands that. Once we've summed it up, this is really what we're looking at. So this is a sample of a candidate persona really flow, and you see some of the simple things like the biographical information. Where did they go to school? Where do they live? What are they looking for earning, salary, those things. But there's some of the soft things. What are their career aspirations? What are their life goals? Is this a role that you're looking for somebody that is maybe looking for a part-time role, right? And so thinking through, what are their career aspirations? What are they looking to achieve? How do we balance the role within their life? And then key skills. So is this person a good communicator? Are they able to take a lot of data and synthesize that information? Are they confident in providing their opinion? When we start to understand the candidate holistically beyond that resume, what we're able to do is look in maybe different fields that have similar skills, that are able to have those soft skills that can transfer over and make a great employee. We do this a lot at Hueman, where we hire recruiters, and ultimately we may bring somebody into our organization that doesn't have some recruitment experience or a lot of recruitment experience, but what they do have is maybe experience as a hiring manager. They understand the back end, they understand a back office or something like that, and they're coachable, and they are customer service oriented, and they're gritty, and they're all of these core values that we're looking for. So we feel good about bringing them into our organization. We can teach them to be a recruiter, but what we can't teach are these goals and these key skills that we're looking for. So going through this candidate persona really allows you to see who we are looking for beyond just those kind of things on paper. Give you a great example of using a candidate persona. We work with a partner. They are a large rail-based freight organization, and they were looking for train conductors, and they were having a tough time. And so we went in and we talked to the leaders within their organization, those next level leaders, and we said, hey, tell me about the folks that thrive in this role that you are leading. And we came up and we went through the workshop, and we found some themes within these roles. And you see some of the biographical stuff. Listen, they're 30 to 40 male with a blue collar background. We saw maybe their experience or education, where they came from, but then we started looking at soft skills, things they're interested in. So particularly, some of those interests, we saw that they came from a military background. They were really interested in classic cars, right? So when we're going to social media, we're not saying, hey, we're going to go to Meta over here and just blast out all of these ads. We can go to Meta and say, we're looking for folks that are into these specific hobbies, that maybe have this similar background, and we're able to really refine our advertisements, our job descriptions to include things like, not you're a train conductor, you're not going to be sitting at the front of a train doing nothing. You're actually using that situational awareness. You have to be analytical. It is a really hands-on job. You're working with large machinery. You're doing some of these things that are similar to the skills that they enjoy doing. And so when you're able to take these things, it just truly refines what you're doing, and cuts down on that spin. It also may open you up to understanding that hey, maybe our value proposition, maybe we're missing something, right? Can we look at these soft skills and then go into a new pond and say, listen, we know that you are an analytical person, and this is why a train conductor role may be perfect for you. And it may be something that they never even thought about, but you're able to tell them about it because your description matched and you understand their pains, their goals, their frustrations. So some of the questions that we're looking for, of course, like I said, the background, their goals, their challenges, the why. So this is so important that you're talking with folks within your organization that truly understand the job. Let's get some quotes from those people so that at the end, when you get to your how, we talk about the marketing messaging and your elevator pitch for your recruiters. At the end of the day, your recruiters are your only salespeople within HR. And so when they're talking with candidates, let's give them some ammunition and let's be able to say, hey, you know why I think you may be a perfect person for this role. Let me tell you what Sally over here said about this role and working here. We have real quotes for her. And we're able to relay that to a candidate. It enhances our recruiters' ability to really sell a candidate on a role. So when we run into challenges with compensation or location or things like that, we're able to quickly overcome a lot of those things because we understand that salary is only one small piece of what motivates these candidates. We know that truly what they want to do is within the job and it's a hands-on something. Our recruiter can sell that and our recruiter can do that because they truly understand who this candidate is. Thinking through even at a larger scale those motivations and what is important. So I mentioned salary. It's not always the most important. We deliberately put it lower on the list because it isn't always the most important, but thinking about the benefits, the culture, the teammates that they're going to work with, and being able to relay that information to a candidate is vitally important. When we think about that downstream and how this can affect things like our process, technology that we're bringing, recruitment marketing dollars that we're spending, we really want to stop and think about this. So, how will these folks search and apply for a job? If you're looking, for example, for a part-time role, maybe somebody looking to pick up some extra hours during, a seasonal peak. Well, that person's probably not actively looking for a role. They may be spending time on their phone, but you're going to need to advertise in a place that they are. So maybe for that part-time example, you're looking for teachers, or you're looking for somebody that is spending time in a group on Facebook or somewhere where you can advertise into and tell them about this role, something that they may not have even been thinking about. Thinking about your process and how you're interviewing folks. So is that person who already has a job and is looking for something extra, are they going to come in for an in-person interview? Likely not. So could there be an adjustment to your hiring process that would help a candidate move through quicker and ultimately land you more quality candidates? And then the last piece, where will they look, right? So this is meeting them where they are, whether that's social media, whether that is talking to folks within your organization and asking for referrals, but giving them some ammunition about, hey, this is why you would want to come work here. Different job boards, different places that we're advertising. It's so important to think about your candidate as people. And I think if I can sum everything up, I think that's the biggest thing for me is when you're out and you're recruiting these folks, oftentimes we think of our employees, especially in a large organization, as a number. It isn't right. It isn't what we intend to do. But ultimately, we lose sight of who they are as people. And going through this candidate persona exercise truly gives you an insight as to who your employees are beyond the day-to-day of a job, beyond a resume. And then ultimately, there's a ton of benefits, right? So we're going to be bringing the right people in that are going to be sticking around. It impacts turnover. You're going to fill those positions faster because you're looking for the right people to fill. Something that I'm most proud of at Hueman is our interview to hire ratio is 1.9 to 1. And so much of that is driven based on what we are doing from a candidate persona exercise. We're fishing in the right pond. We're not grabbing 10 people and hoping one sticks. We can grab 2, 3, 4 people, and we know that they're all great candidates, and we can submit them, and we know that they're going to have some staying power. So I know this was a quick webinar. This is a very high level overview of what a candidate persona is, how you can use it. And hopefully I gave you some tactical ways that you could go and take this today with your team and say, let's do a candidate persona exercise. But if you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is great, I don't either, one, I don't understand exactly how it may benefit me, or two, there's no way that I could do this on my own, I would love to talk with you. And so please send me an email if you're looking to get some information about those candidate persona samples or worksheets. We'd love to send them over to you, and then we'd love to have a conversation. So I appreciate you coming, spending your lunchtime with me. Lamise, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Zach. And we are taking questions. If you want to drop those in the chat, or chat is good, actually. Let's not do the Q&A. Zach, do you have a slide for contact information, whether your email or...
I do, yes. Thank you. So here's all my information. Shoot me a text. This is my cell phone number, the 405. Oftentimes it's the best way I can get in touch with people. So send me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call. I'd love to chat with you.
Sounds great. And I love the presentation and the depth of information. Thank you for you and your team putting this together. I do have a few questions if you want
to hit me.
That's your first time on the program. I'll make them easy. If you don't like a question,
all
just
right.
we'll move over. Do you need a candidate persona for every position in the organization?
No, definitely not. And if there's a position that you're hiring, like I said, once a year, let's not worry about it. We do want to understand our company's culture. We want to understand our value proposition. We want to understand all of those things, because ultimately it's important information to a candidate. But I wouldn't say that we need to spend hours doing a candidate persona for a position that we may hire 1 or 2 a year. But when we think about the top 3 to 5 positions, that's where it's most important. So those positions that you're bringing in, a lot of times high turnover or very impactful positions to your organization, and folks that we want sticking around for a long time, I would say it's absolutely worthwhile to go through a candidate persona exercise with those positions.
Okay, that's helpful. And would it be one candidate persona for a position, or is it possible that a position would have multiple candidate personas?
Sure. Great question. So, ideally, we're looking at a position that we're hiring so often, that it's not changing a ton. However, when we think about a candidate persona, it's going to adjust based on a location. But for instance, like I think I gave an example of the south side of Chicago versus Pasadena, California. Not only is it a different location, but it is a different person that is working a very similar role. So based on location, based on management, based on team structure, based on all of those things, our candidate persona can adjust, and it should adjust. And ultimately, long-term, a candidate persona is a working document. And so as you get feedback from, if in a recruiter's situation, if you're getting feedback from hiring managers, feedback from the organization that maybe something needs to adjust in the candidate persona, let's adjust it. But we have a really good base level for what we're looking for by going through this exercise.
This leads me to the next question. You kind of alluded to this. How is there a formal review for candidate personas? Is that something that happens on regular basis, once and done? What's the process?
Sure. Yeah, so we broke down that process a little bit, right? Bring in, 5 to 10 folks that are working on this, and you will go through a big process at the beginning. But then really, I think that these should be reviewed in a formal capacity annually. It's probably a good time. What's changed in the last year? What is or isn't working based on the candidate persona that we're using to screen candidates and find candidates? And an annual review would be really helpful. But as you have more time, I would say it never hurts to go back and look, right?
Yeah. You said annual. Did you find during the pandemic, because it feels like people's priorities change, their perspective on a lot of things change, even location, all of that. Did you find that you had to reassess candidate personas for your clients?
Sure. Yeah. I think as it feels like forever ago, but really it's been about 4 years ago since the beginning of the pandemic. And you forget how much the world has shifted. And me as a person, my priorities have shifted, right? So understanding that role and knowing that it is going to be a flexible, document, that it's not a hard and fast, and every single person that we hire for this role is going to be exactly like this. That is not at all what a candidate persona exercise. That's not the point of a candidate persona exercise, I'll say. Really, it's just thinking through constantly what are the challenges of this role, what makes someone successful from a core value perspective, right? What are those personality traits? What are those things? And some of those things, they don't change whether we're at home or when we're in an office. I like to think I'm the same person whether I'm sitting right here or if you go see me next week at a Cowboys game playing music, right? It's very much the same person, and what makes me tick, that's what we're trying to get to when we do a candidate persona.
Thank you. That's helpful and makes sense. Couple more, and John likes your presentation, Zach, and finds it beneficial for when they do help with communication. Couple more, if you would allow me.
Yeah, sure.
For an organization starting that does not have this candidate persona process in place, what does an implementation duration looks like? You said there's a lot done upfront. How long would that process take?
Definitely. And I don't know that there is an actual prescriptive amount of time that it should take. Some organizations are going to be at a different level on the spectrum, right? They may have absolutely no idea who they're looking for a role. That organization is going to take a little bit longer to go through it than an organization who has a really good grasp, and maybe they're just refining a candidate persona process. What I'll say, and what is most important, is have somebody who truly understands what you're doing from a recruitment marketing perspective, as well as a talent acquisition process perspective. So when they deeply understand what's going on and the ins and outs of those things, they're able to ask some of the right questions, right? We can give you a sample analysis. We can give you a final layout of, hey, this is kind of what our candidate personas look like. But ultimately, you need somebody within your organization that's able to distill that information down to something that is going to be important. And usually that's going out and choosing which ponds we're fishing in, where we need to spend money appropriately. If you don't have that person, there are a lot of groups. We are a group that does that. And so we'd love to chat about it.
On that topic, do you have resources or maybe templates that people can use to create marketing persona that you like to share?
Sure. Yeah. Shoot me an email. I can send it out to you. We have all of these things. I'm happy to share these slides. And then we have a few things internally that we use as well, but always glad to have a conversation.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to ask all these questions, Zach. It's been fun to have this conversation and learn as much about candidate persona as we did. It's a new topic on the program, so I appreciate you bringing all this insight and knowledge.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for spending your lunch break with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And last note, I do want to give an endorsement for Hueman, because I did not realize you've grown recently as much as you did. Congratulations, up to 500 employees.
Yeah, thanks. It's I remember starting, we were less than 100 people. And so it's been a really awesome ride. But ultimately, I think what it is we just treat folks a little bit differently. And that's been the root of our growth.
Yeah, you know culture and you know how to recruit for the right persona.
That's great. And being great partners with you. So thanks to the RPOA for putting this on, and thank you for all of your effort. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. We sincerely value your partnership as well. Thank you so much, Zach, again.
Thank you.